All right, Drink with James, episode 54. We're changing things up today. So, longtime reader, Flight of Spice, sent this over, which is a beautiful bottle of tequila. And might I encourage all of you to first follow her. She's doing great things, so Tim will put it up here. But second, feel free to send me alcohol. I am shameless in requesting this. Tim can throw our address up here, or you can email me. But if you send me booze, I will drink it. Unless it is some sort of like aperitif after dinner drink, I don't fuck with that, or gin. So other than that, we're good. Send it on through. Oh yes, speaking of tequila, I drank a lot of tequila last weekend. I was in Mexico with a few of my colleagues, as well as my family. I don't know if any of you that follow me on Instagram, if you don't, as always, you should. But the trip was insane. And I was walking around the streets of San Miguel with Emma and Grace on our team, just being like, I can't believe that every blogger doesn't go down here just once a month. It is the most obscenely beautiful place. Really, it is one of the most beautiful places in the world. And I think everyone should go down there, unless you're lame, in which case stay the fuck away and please don't ruin my dream town. Tequila is the only alcohol that's an upper, not a downer. So there's that. It's the only alcohol that it's not a depressant. So that's pretty cool. Look, I like expensive things. If it is expensive, I would probably like it. So am I drinking, well tequila shots warm? Absolutely not. But will I drink this beautiful, very expensive bottle of tequila on the rocks? I absolutely will, especially if it's in my Baccarat glass. So I think tequila is fantastic. I feel like I need some sort of armchair maybe one day. My goal, maybe in a year or two, I think maybe it'll be the next office. Maybe in the next office, we'll have a dedicated Drink with James set. And I can have a little fireplace and maybe a lap dog and a lot of rich mahogany and velvets and just sit there with a pipe and a smoking jacket and talk to you guys. But this is my goals. Let's go on to y'all's. All right, so we talk all the time about coming to New York, right? You need to come to New York, meet some people. What if you're a smaller blogger? How should you do it? Should you do it? What should you do, etc. We say all the time, know thyself. I think that's the first thing. Let me just actually step back. I'm going to walk back from that. Kind of two things. One, doesn't hurt to ask. You can literally ask anyone you want to have a meeting. If they don't want to have a meeting with you, they probably just won't answer your email. That's okay. A lot of my emails don't get answered. So I wouldn't sweat that too much. Feel free to just throw it out there. The second part is, know thyself a little bit and understand where you're at and what is reasonable. If you have 20,000 followers, that's amazing. I don't want to downplay that. But are you going to get a meeting with Dior? Probably not. Almost definitely not. So that, will you eventually get those meetings? I hope so. I hope you grow, and I hope your content progresses to a place where you can build a relationship with those kind of blue chip brands that you want to work with. But everyone starts somewhere, and so I think dependent on where you are and what your level is, you need to look for brands that are kind of in a similar life cycle. Either they're emerging brands that don't have a lot of traction yet, which could be great, or they're large brands that maybe are generally less desirable to work with. I don't mean that they're bad brands, I just mean that they're not the brands that every single influencer in the world is organically working with already. Brands that need help and maybe aren't getting hit up by influencers all the time to have meetings and to drinks and want to do these projects. So those brands, just like influencers, right? If they're not getting hit up a lot, you're much more likely to get in there. So try and find someone who's kind of in your same arena and reach out. And again, we've talked about the pitch before, but you email them, you're coming to the city, you'd love to grab coffee, have a meeting, whatever, you love the brand. If you've done a post about the brand before, link to that post. Try and make it really easy for them to know that this isn't going to be a waste of their time. Sometimes you can make the meetings really short. I don't know that you need to have a 30-minute meeting with every brand. So there's some that maybe you just want to spend 15 minutes. You can have a little carrot of like, hey, I've got an idea I'd love to talk to you about. You actually then have to have an idea. You have to sit down and say like, okay, here's something I want to do. But yeah, you just want to make it really easy for that brand to say yes and agree to meeting with you. If they don't meet, if they say they're too busy that time, keep up the relationship so that when you email them the next time, when you're in town the next time, that you're more likely to get the meeting. And I'll say this, like, if let's say you go to New York twice a year for meetings, and you email a bunch of brands and you ask them for a meeting, and then let's say you email 40 brands and 10 say yes, okay? And then you come back to New York half a year later, you email those same 40 brands. You kind of, what you want to do is if you email a brand and say, I'd love to meet, and they say, so sorry, I'm super slammed. Over the next 6 months, check in once a month with something so they recognize you, Post about their brand a month after and say, hey, I saw this, I thought you'd like it. Follow them on Instagram and, interact with them, comment on their stuff, whatever it might be. Learn something about, maybe they have a dog and you send them a fucking new leash. I don't know what, but if a brand answers the email but doesn't take the meeting, that is your opening to build a relationship with them. But a relationship is not emailing them every time you come to town and being like, can you meet now? Because they have no real reason to do that. So if you can get them to answer the email, start to try and build a relationship with them, make sure you stay on their radar once a month with something. And then when you come back, it's like 6 months later, it's like, oh, hey, I'm in town again. We should definitely meet up, because now they feel like they know you. You're interacting with them on social. You're doing stuff. You're sending them emails. You're much more likely to get that second meeting. Yeah, you don't go and follow the brand. You follow that person. Find their personal account, follow it, and start interacting. And you don't have to do everything. You don't want to seem desperate. Don't be commenting on every photo with hard eyes and, oh my God, I love this so much. You want to be a little discerning, but make it authentic and real. And just try and be like friends with the person. I'm sure you guys have internet friends that you haven't met yet, so just try and do that. And if you can't find them on social or you don't want to do that, again, you can just send them an email once a month. Hey, I posted this thing about your brand. Just want to make sure you didn't miss it. I think I'm coming to town in 3 or 4 months. We should meet up. Thousands and thousands of small brands that don't have people that do influencer marketing. We work with brands who have whole departments that all they do is influencer marketing, right? They're very advanced. They spend a lot of money, time doing this. There's a lot of other brands that are spending their time figuring out manufacturing and marketing and trying to find product market fit and all of these different things. They don't necessarily have time to have a full influencer strategy, and they would welcome somebody coming in and saying, hey, I want to work with you. Here's the idea. Can we make this happen? So, where you find those brands is, that's kind of on you. That's part of your job as a fashion blogger, if you're in fashion. But outside of that, any brand, right? If you're into cycling or hiking or cooking, if you don't have your finger on the pulse of like what are the new interesting brands, then like you may not be very good at your job. So you should know who those brands are and try and build relationships with them early, especially if you feel like this is going to be a thing one day. And helping those brands that you feel like it's going to be a thing early on can be really nice. I remember like a friend reached out to me to be in a Outdoor Voices shoot like before they launched. They just had like samples, and I was just like, whatever. Yeah, I don't know what the fuck this brand is, but like, sure, you can take photos of me running. And like looking back, if I was doing the influencer thing, like building a relationship with that brand early could have been really helpful. So like those opportunities will present themselves, and being generous to those brands that could use your generosity can be really effective. Maybe more effective than like extending that generosity to a huge multinational brand that is just going to be like, oh cool, we got 2 extra posts, but you only have 20,000 followers, so what the fuck do I really care? So you want to go, focus your energies where your impact is going to be felt. Flat lays. What's trending in flat lays? Are we living yet in a post-marble bedspread, not bread spread? I fucking love bread. We living in a post-marble bedspread world yet? Answer: no, we're not. Will we ever shake ourselves from the bondage of marble? I'm not sure. Do I think it's getting a little played out? Yes. So Tim will put up an example here of we did a campaign for Dunkin' Donuts. Which if you live in Boston, I'm sure you love, and I love too. What was I saying? Oh, so we did this campaign for Dunkin' Donuts, and we tried to work with like interesting creatives, and one person did this, which is not a flat lay, but kind of built a little set and did something really creative. Tim will throw up another example of some posts from a Dots campaign we did. So we've done a few campaigns where we've worked with people who we felt like are more like creative directors or designers or artists, and what they do with flat lays, quote unquote flat lays, is incredible. And I think that if a brand is paying you, or not, if you just are trying to be creative, like if you are just laying something on marble and taking a photo of it and you're getting paid for that, like it's pretty fucking easy, okay? Like I know that like if you're shooting an outfit, it's not super easy, right? You gotta pick a location, you gotta make sure the weather's good, you have to get a photographer, you have to do all this stuff. Like, if you're putting a moisturizer on a fucking marble table and laying your Chanel next to it and taking a photo, like, and you got paid $3,000 for that, like, there's no way you can tell me that is difficult. It's not really that hard. So, the people that really spend the time to come up with a creative concept for the flat lay, maybe buy some, very easy to buy seamless paper in any color. You go to any craft store or a photo studio, and or online, and you can order seamless backdrops. I think Man Repeller does a good job of this as well. Maybe Tim can throw up some examples. I know they have a little studio, but when I say studio, it's like seamless, this big that goes out like this long. It's not big, and then they have like one light on it. I think you can do more interesting things, and you can challenge yourself to be better than marble and brass. That still works, but I think that it's a nice way to be able to differentiate yourself. And I think if it's a sponsored post, I really feel like you should be doing more. There's another woman I love. I don't know how to pronounce her name, so Tim will throw her account up, but she and her boyfriend do really creative, like flat lay, product focused photography that is out of this world. And granted, they're seemingly decently strange and creative, eccentric people, but this is the kind of thing that I know for 4Card, we're pushing more of our clients into that when they need product focused photography and pushing it away from people that are just going to do marble flat lays. So good way to differentiate yourself, good new skill to learn, something that not everyone is doing. So maybe somewhere where you can kind of gain some traction. Are people charging for stories? Yes or no? How should I determine my rate? I'm gonna yawn first. It's not about you guys, it's just me. So, are people charging for Instagram stories? I would say depends. I haven't seen much of charging exclusively for stories yet. What I kind of look at Instagram stories is I think a lot of people look at Facebook and Twitter. It's become a part of the round of social. If you have a blog post or an Instagram up, you want to drive as much attention to that as possible. So you're going to tweet about it. You're going to put it on Facebook. You're going to cover it in Insta stories and say, hey, there's a new blog post up. Hey, I have a new, you're going to put a big fucking emoji on your picture and say, new post, go check it out. Which the first person I saw do that was my 13-year-old niece, who started doing it right when Instagram stories came out. And I was like, this is so stupid. Why is she putting in Instagram stories like new post, check it out, please like. But now I see all the bloggers doing it, so I guess it does make sense. Anyway, I digress. because it's seen as like a round of social essentially, and it's promoting and pushing people to the main property that you're charging for, I don't think most people probably charge for it. I think it's natural that if you do a sponsored post, you're going to want to cover it on Insta Stories because you're going to want to push as many people to that post. That totally makes sense. Now, if you're huge, if you're watching this and you have 500,000 or 1 million influencers, 500,000 or 1 million followers, and your posts have gotten prohibitively expensive for some brands, then I can see you selling an Insta Story. You know, my back of the napkin math on that would probably be 10%, 5 to 10% of your normal cost of a post. Do I think that will go up in the future? Yes. Do I think brands are going to start specifically buying Instagram stories? Absolutely. It's certainly something 4Card's already looked into as a way to work with bigger, like blue chip, well-known influencers on a kind of less expensive basis. But we're still kind of in the beginning of things on Insta Stories. So that's kind of how I would look at it. If you're a smaller blogger, I wouldn't charge for it. I mean, again, if you're charging $500 a post, is it worth telling the brand that it's another $50 if they want an Insta Story? Probably not. Just do it. Do it, make them feel good. It's a nice way to give a little bonus. The brand gets it in their DM, so they see that you're posting it. Maybe do a few posts so they can kind of see that. That's a nice thing for a brand to see. So if you're not supporting your posts with Insta Stories, then you're doing yourself a big disservice. The other thing is it's a nice place to cover brands that aren't going to make your Instagram. People that sent you stuff that maybe you don't want to post about on the actual Instagram. Really nice place to kind of cover that and tell that story. Well, look, Tim and I aren't done for the day. We have many things to do, and you guys are keeping us from it. So I bid you adieu.